All right, and welcome to A Dash of Reading. Be bringing my co-host Amber on here in just a few minutes. But if you haven't watched this before, we will be reviewing a book that we have picked out, and then we take time to read, and then we'll give you the review on it today. So the book that we have for today is Blind Tiger by Sandra Brown. We'll be going over that in just a few moments. Just waiting on Amber, but thank you for coming out tonight. Watching, I know that there's football going on, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And so I'm going to wait for, there she is. And we'll get going. Hello, hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. This is gonna be a little weird. I'm on the back porch and holding it, so I hope it works out okay.
I think you'll be just fine.
Okay.
Oh, all right. So, guys, welcome to A Dash of Reading. I'm Dash. This is my co-host, Amber. And we're here to talk to you today about Blind Tiger. This was the one that we chose last episode. We had some time to sit down and read it, finally get our hands on the book. And I guess we'll get going. Obviously, Blind Tiger, we're going to give some spoilers. So if you have not read it, just close your ears or turn away right now. Blind Tiger, post World War I, Prohibition, Texas, historical fiction. You got it all: bootleggers, gangsters, cowboys.
Yeah, it was really like an action-packed book. Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I love the setting. Overall, I thought the book was a great read. I give it a 4 out of 5. But we'll get into some.
I did too.
We'll get into some of the stuff that we thought, or I thought, could have been better, and some of the things that we love. So let's just get right down to it. Couple of great characters, I thought, right off the bat. But what did you like best about this book?
Well, the storyline was really, really interesting about the moonshine and just Laurel and what she had to do to survive. And I really like the way it was written. I've never read anything by Sandra Brown. This particular book I felt like was fast-paced. The chapters were short and her cliffhangers were amazing. So you just wanted to keep going and keep going. It really, really kept me interested.
Oh, I agree. I mean, that is partly what I like, but I felt like I was there. Like when I was reading it, I felt like I was in Foley, Texas. The dirty streets, the dust blowing through the storefronts, and just this is my first time reading her as in depth. I've read a couple things a long time ago, but really felt and you got like you were there in post World War I, 1920s. You felt like you were getting ready to see the gangsters pulling their pants up real high, walking through the streets and everything. So yeah, that was my favorite part.
I know, I love. Yeah. No, I liked when, she talked about Thatcher wearing his fedora, and I was just like, oh, I just love that whole look back then where I loved hats. Let's bring back wearing like nice hats. Let's make that normal again for women, not just ball caps like you have on, but the fedoras. Oh, I love that look.
Yeah, you just want that where they tip their hats to the ladies and how do you do and
love it.
Yeah, and I felt like you really got to know each secondary character's attributes, even though they weren't focused on. You still got the feel of who the secondary characters were, and that's what I look for when I'm reading. You just didn't have Bill who was walking by down the street waving. You knew what Bill was going to do exactly, and Bill's not in the book. But.
Right. Yeah, and I was a little worried at first. The book is 500 pages, so it's not super short. And at first I was worried. There seemed to be a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot, like this was happening with Bernie, and then, this was happening with Irv, and this was happening with Gert. And I'm like, there's just way too much going on. But Sandra Brown I think she did a great job of keeping the storylines clear. I never got confused. I was able to weave it together. There were surprises. She surprised me all the way until the very end. I didn't see, the part about Chester. Is that his name?
Yeah, Chester.
Yeah, I didn't, him being who he was. I forget, I can spoil it. Him being like the double agent or whatever he was. That totally shocked me. I didn't see that coming. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, but it was just written very well.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, Chester might be who I identify with the most. Just doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just doing the job. I mean, because I was like, oh my God, this guy is just. But you never ever caught him doing something that everybody suspected him of, and it wasn't until, like you said, that twist at the end. I was like, oh, he was the undercover agent for the Texas Rangers. That's great. What did you dislike the most?
The romance parts. Yeah. But I guess as far as like with the way the book was written, nothing. But the storyline, at the Thatcher, I felt like he got really nosy with Laurel a lot, and I was like, you need to back up, dude. That just irritated me. But then at the end, when he just left to go visit the guy who practically raised him or whatever, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
I did not find that part believable, actually. I don't believe that. I don't believe after everything they went through in the whole story that Thatcher would just leave.
Just leave her. That was what I had written as well. I felt like she had to go back and go, oh, this is why I left you. That was the only part, because I was like, he was there every time something went wrong, and he would tell her everything that was going wrong with him. And then all of a sudden, just to get up and leave, that was the part I disliked, and it just didn't flow. I mean, like you said, we have 500 pages, and 498 of them are flowing, and then these last two, you're like, what? No.
Right.
So yeah,
I think it's out of character for Thatcher.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. I'm not sure I don't know why she wanted Laurel mad at him when he came back into town. I couldn't figure. I think she could have done without that. Yeah.
I agree, and I think we nailed. You nailed that perfectly, and I followed along with you on that one as well. The other thing that just kind of like you said was the length of it. There's a couple of things we could have left out for sake and probably cut it down to about 450, maybe 420. That's just me.
Yeah.
But overall, yes.
Yeah.
I loved it. Who is your favorite character?
Irv.
Irv?
I love Irv. Yeah. He just, when he first met Laurel, and then, immediately Derby kills himself, and Irv doesn't hesitate to take care of Laurel and Pearl. I don't know. I just loved him. I thought he was funny.
Yeah.
He's just a big sweetheart. I loved his character and his heart. I'm giving it to Irv.
I feel like he's the typical Texan in that time frame. Just yeah, he was well. Yeah, you reading him, you just attracted to him, and you really clung to him. Yeah. I'm giving mine to Thatcher just because I like the cowboyish, I relate with him, and not just Chester, but I relate with Thatcher, just coming home from the war, trying to get back and do what he wants to do and what makes him happy. And I felt that character. I felt him, and I was like, oh, I know what he's going through, and to deal with what, back then they called it shell shock or whatever, but he's still going through his post-traumatic stress and handling it. And Thatcher was between, it came down between Chester and him. And like I said, I kind of saw after reading Chester and finding out what he was there at the end, I was like, I could relate to him a little bit as well. But Thatcher definitely gets.
I want to talk about Thatcher and the way he reacted after the World War. One thing that stuck out to me tremendously in the first few chapters, which I really just started to like, Sandra Brown is really good, is Derby gets home, and like a lot of guys, he becomes an alcoholic. He's not the same as he was, understandably so. So when he tells Laurel to pack, we're moving, she packs everything. And then right before they leave, he takes his uniform out of his suitcase and he hangs it up. He doesn't even take it with him. Yeah. And then flash to Thatcher. who took the buttons off his uniform. I mean, he had to turn in his uniform, and he took the buttons off and he sewed it to his coat. Didn't turn into an alcoholic, is just trying desperately to get home. So I thought she did a really good job of saying these two men did the exact same thing, but look at how they dealt with it differently. And that is still true today. It's still true for soldiers in 2021, and how they handle it different. But that all happens at the beginning, and that's when I was like, oh, she's good. Yeah, like, she knew. Just that simple thing of taking the buttons off and keeping them, that, like, I knew what she was doing at that point. It was really good.
Yeah, the contrasting style of both of the soldiers and how they deal with the coming home. Yeah. That, I think, and that's going to be part of one of the questions that we have down here in a few minutes. But who was your least favorite?
Gabe Driscoll. Really?
Yeah.
Come on. The doctor who starts sleeping around and then decides to kill his wife.
Yeah.
And then I mean, there's some bad characters in this book. You know, you've got Gert, who's terrible. You've got the mayor, who's terrible. But Gabe was like closet terrible. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, at least with Gert and Bernie, I felt like you knew where you stood with those two. But Gabe was trying to just be this good town doctor, and just
I felt he was forced on us quite a bit on certain parts of his aspect. I went with Gert. And
no, she's horrible.
She is horrible. and I don't, but that just means she wrote her so well, if that makes sense.
Yes.
My wife always tells me, if you hate somebody in a movie or a show, it's because they're doing their job well. And Gert
absolutely.
Oh, again, another person I just picture just oozing with evil and just, yeah. Gert was my least favorite as far as personality wise, but she was written so well. So I don't know if that's a contradiction.
She was. And no, again, Sandra Brown is a very good writer. I mean, you and I are passionate about our choices. Kudos to Sandra Brown for getting us to that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if that tells you listeners or you viewers anything about her writing style, is that Dash and I are actively hating characters in a book. So that's good for the author, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So I asked this last time, or I asked a buddy of mine, we were doing a show on his book, and I'm like, when you read, do you ever picture actors and actresses in the roles in the book? So I have to ask, I only did a few of them, but did you pick out anybody who you thought you could see playing these roles?
Okay. So, you might have to bring Tom Golightly back on to analyze me, but what does it say about me when I'm always the main character? It's me. It's always me. Like Amber Emery. So I was Laurel. I'm always the main character. Yeah. But so, okay. I don't watch TV and movies like I used to. So I had a hard time with this because these characters are probably mid-20s, right? Because if he went to war, they're mid-20s. I don't know who the new actors are. So I actually Googled them. So Florence Pugh, she played Amy March in Little Women, which is excellent movie. I can see her as Laurel. I don't know any of the young men.
That's fine.
So I thought maybe we could do another Zendaya, Zac Efron matchup for Laurel and Thatcher. That's all I got. This is a terrible question for me. I didn't realize how little I watch TV anymore until I tried to figure this out on my own.
That's all right. I have two people, and you can Tom Hardy, who plays in the new, but you know, he's been in Venom and Batman and a few things, and he was Mad Max. But he's done a few of the period pieces of the 20s and 30s, and so I pictured him as Thatcher. But you know, I also had Zac Efron as well. So kudos to you on that one. Just because of The Greatest Showman, I feel like Zac can go in there and do those period pieces. Laurel, I had a hard time. Scarlett Johansson, I feel like she would pull off a good, you know, she's a little bit older than mid-20s, but I mean, when they're casting actors, they don't cast them for their age anyway. So for Irv,
I know.
For Irv, I picked Liam Neeson. I just feel like Liam Neeson would just do a great job as the old Texan sitting there and just got the scruffy beard, kind of like me. And then Christoph Waltz as Bernie, the mayor. Because if you ever saw Inglourious Bastards, he was the German in Inglourious Bastards. So, all right. Sorry, just look him up. Look him up. You'll know why I picked him as the mayor.
Okay.
And Kathy Bates as Gert.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Oh, yes. That's good. And then did you ever watch the TV show Justified? Yeah. Okay. Do you remember in Justified the woman who ran the drug run, the drug ring?
I can't remember.
She could be a really good
she would be a good
too.
Gert. So yeah, I knew it was kind of hard to cast these, but from the time I was reading, Tom Hardy really stuck out to me as Thatcher. I'm like, I can just see him with his sophisticated style and
Look him up.
And just being that war-torn soldier trying to get home. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you relate with mostly in the book? I guess not so much relate, but what did you get most out of this book?
A good time.
Yeah.
As far as like emotions.
That was the one I was looking
for. That's what I wrote down.
That's what I wrote.
I didn't really. I wasn't like emotionally. Well, I mean, I'm irritated at the characters and stuff, but I just enjoyed the fast-pacedness of it. That towards the end, when Gert had Laurel, and they were beating her up and stuff, I was stressed out.
Yeah.
Like the writing was so good. I could feel my anxiety rising during all of that because I did not know how that was going to end. So yeah, I don't know. I just felt for Laurel. I just wanted her to be safe and happy, and so that scene totally stressed me out.
Yeah, it was a good scene though. It was a very and like we talked, like good. Sandra did her job by and that was a good scene for me. I think for emotional wise for me was just again I'm gonna go back to Thatcher just because I can relate with him on a military level and him dealing you could see it throughout. He just wanted to get home and he just wanted to get back to his mentor and being pulled away and here he is in love with the girl but he still wants to go back. The sheriff tricks him, lies to him, does everything he can. So I think
poor Bill.
And just as a father and the scene with Bernie and the mistress in her room.
Oh, that was horrible.
I felt rage. If that's what you want me to, I did. Yeah. I felt a lot of rage in that particular scene, and it just was like.
And you know what? I never saw any trigger warnings. Like on Goodreads, when I looked this up, usually there's trigger warnings for rape scenes, and that was a very brutal rape scene. And again, Sandra Brown just really writes very well. It was hard to read. You're right. It was very hard to read. But it should come with trigger warnings. Like when people review it, they should say that.
Yeah, it was.
Some people can't. If you've been raped, I don't want to. A lot of people don't want to read about that.
That was probably the most intense and rage I felt in a book in quite some time. Where I was like, I felt even though she was a minor character, you felt for her. You're just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So what did you learn new from this book? I hate this question because it's fiction, but
I know. Well, actually, I learned that blind tiger is a word for speakeasy, and Eric and I actually went to eat at the Blind Tiger. There's a restaurant here in Shreveport called Blind Tiger. And I had posted that I had gone there, and my friend was like, "Oh, like in the book?" And I was like, I hadn't read the book yet, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So then I went to the website of the restaurant, and that's why it's called Blind Tiger, is a nod to the old speakeasies. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So
that is exactly what I learned. I'm not gonna lie. I speakeasy or brothel or house of ill repute, if you will, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that was something I was like, oh, Blind Tiger sounds like it, but what does it have to do with bootlegging? You know, because I'm
Right.
yeah, but yeah, that's something that I learned, and you know, I'm 48 years old, and now I know what a blind tiger is. So.
Oh my gosh, you know what? This is interesting. So blind tiger, so speakeasies usually have like a front, right?
Mhm.
Like you don't really know what they are. There's like some kind of front. So there's a lot of characters in this book that are not who you think they are
Yeah, that's
at the beginning.
metaphor.
So I think that title works really well.
Yeah.
That just dawned on me.
Yeah.
You talking about it.
It was a good metaphor for some of the great characters. But
yeah.
So last but not least, what's being stuck with you? Well, I think you already told us, but
well, I do have something else other than Chester Landry. I'm gonna read. Hang on, just a second. So this might be a little cheesy. I recently read the Odyssey by Homer, and it was fantastic. And I love Odysseus. He's probably one of my favorite literary characters of all time. But I feel like every adventure story leads to the Odyssey.
Mhm.
Like it was like the very first adventure story, and they all lead back. So when I first started reading this, and Thatcher's just desperately trying to get home, I'm like, oh, the Odyssey. Even, you know, in Latin, Odysseus is Ulysses.
Yeah.
So what was the name of the horse? It was Ulysses,
Ulysses,
right? And I'm like, yep, this is a definite Odyssey. Well, he couldn't go home because he thought that what's his name was dead, right? So then I'm like, well, maybe that's just stupid. It's not the Odyssey. But on page 492, Thatcher says he was now convinced that everything that had happened since his leap from that freight car had been predestined. He'd been making his way home, but not to a place, to a person.
Yep.
He would only ever be home with this woman. And I was like, it is the Odyssey. Thatcher had to go through all of this stuff to find his way home, but his way home was with Laurel.
Yeah. That's a pretty good.
So cheesy, but
yeah, no, that's pretty good. That's very memorable. And like I said, I think Chester was his, at least to me, I don't know what anybody else thinks. Chester was his hidden conscience, I think, or his hidden guide, there to push him in all the right directions, even though we never knew it. That, at least that's way after, when he was there with Chester on the train, found out exactly who he was. He's like, all right, now I want you to go, now I want you to go here. That scene stood out to me, but just the suicides, that scene stuck out to me the most overall when they get to Irv's home. Derby and her go out. He's like, well, I'm going to go out and go to the bathroom. And she follows him and trying to figure out what's going on. And he's like, I need you to go back inside. And then for her to witness that I think that, and again, tying into what I felt like for the last few years, just with people I've known and things like that. And that one really stuck to me. So that was probably and just for the way she handled it, like, and then losing Pearl too. So I mean, just Laurel was all around badass. If you guys want to know, and you
know, that's just, and I think women were different 100 years ago, honestly, because if my husband killed himself in front of me and then 6 months later my baby dies or whatever, I don't know if I'm looking to run a moonshine ring. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just gonna lay here and marry the first guy who asks, so I don't have to do anything. But you know, she was like, no, I'm not depending on anybody. I'm gonna pick myself up and I'm gonna get it done because that's what I have to do. And I was just very impressed with her.
Yeah, I overall, like I said, the characters are well written. I mean,
yes.
Even God, just even the mayor, I still, like I said, you could just picture him.
Terrible.
Boss hog, Dukes of Hazzard type mayor riding down with his horns on his Cadillac. And I mean, so that's the best part that I can say about this book is, ladies and gentlemen and viewers watching, that if you're going to enjoy each and every character,
Yes.
hands down a great book. Sandra Brown, you did great. If you're watching, Sandra, kudos.
Yes.
um, anything else you want to say about the book?
Let's see. I wrote notes. I don't think so. I think I talked about everything. Yeah, it's just really good. It was a good pick. What made you buy it? This was your pick.
Yeah, I just the bootlegging. Like we talked. You said it too. You enjoy historical fiction as well. I mean, and I do too. I like historical fiction. I mean, but like I said, the cover, just seeing the Dust Bowl, the I was like, oh, this is going to be a period piece. And then I picked it up and looked in the side and saw the bootlegging, the moonshining, and here comes the guy who's blamed for the death, and he's got to find his way out of it. So that always intrigued me. So yeah, that was a great book. I'm glad we decided on that one. We did get a winner for next episode's show. We will be doing the Nightingale, another period piece, another historical fiction, if you will. The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. So a month from now, be ready to come back and listen to our review on Kristen Hanna. But feel free, if there's any books that you, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, if there's any books that you want us to read, to review, something that you want to know about, please put it in the comments. And like I said, each time we'll draw draw a name. Whoever wins will get a $25 gift card to Barnes & Noble from myself. And please share with your friends and let them know that we've got this book reading, the Dash of Reading book review club going on here.
Yes.
But thank you. Any words you want to say?
It's fun.
Huh?
No, thanks. This was really fun. I like to talk books, and so I'm glad we got a chance to do this. And you introduced me to somebody new, so
well, thank you.
It's a good time.
Thank you. We'll do it a month from now. I'll get with you after, and we'll decide the exact date. But we'll do a month from now. We'll do Kristen Hanna, the Nightingale. So thank you everybody for coming out. This is a Dash of Reading. I hope you like our reviews. Take it easy on me. This was my first one. But take care. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.